themselves and tell you who they are and what they do. And we've got three managing agents and two board members. So we'll start with Mitch Kraus from Associa.
Hey, everybody. Mitch Kraus, Associa. We are a local and national management firm managing about 300 communities across South Florida. Blessed to be here today. We love the Cooperator show. I've been participating both as an exhibitor and certainly bring the entire team in to meet vendors, find out what projects we need to fulfill, and make a lot of connections. So happy to be here and share some insight.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Mary Molina McPhee. I am the president of my HOA and secretary of my condo, as well as a director of the Community Association Institute and the Broward Coalition.
Hi, I'm Laura Milligan. I am a property manager. I work with Seacrest Services. I have that opportunity and privilege to work with Seacrest. I've been a manager for many, many years. And I have been to many trade shows. So this has been a very interesting event that I have the opportunity to attend today.
Good morning. I'm Tony Lester. I'm president of TNG Management Services and also a former association theft and fraud investigator.
Good morning. My name is Jill Proetti. I am the secretary of my HOA and also the chapter executive director of CAI, Community Associations Institute.
All right. Well, welcome all of you. And they volunteered their time to be here with us. Can we give them a round of applause? Thank you guys so much. So this little module is called Inside the Mind of the HOA Co-op Condo Attendee. And so what we're going to try to do over the next 30, 45 minutes here is to try to learn from them. You know, there's an old saying in selling that the buyer's perception is the seller's reality. And I think the better that we really take some time to understand how our customers think, plan, execute, the better we get as marketers. So the way we're going to approach this is we're going to do this in like chunks, if you will. The first part will be pre-show stuff. So I'm going to be prompting them with questions on some things. And then we'll go to the at-show, and then we'll go to the post-show. And I want this to be very interactive. I want you to think about questions you may have, you know, relative to how do I do this? What are your thoughts on this or that? What I don't want is someone, again, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I do commercial roofing, and Mitch, I've been calling you for 10 years, and you won't even take my call, and I'm going to come up and strangle you. Okay, so try to keep it of, you know, how do you learn from them on how to better engage, promote, market, exhibit? Okay, so as a starting point, I would like to hear from each of you as you look out. We're sitting here in June. So as you look out over the next 6 months, or maybe even to the first quarter of next year, with regard to your properties, what's got your attention right now? What are you grappling with? What are you worried about? What are you focused on? What's happening with your property management, your properties? What's got your attention, Mitch?
Well, once you get through the first half of the year, you start figuring out where your trends are budget-wise at each association. You start forecasting your budget for the new year. So it's a beautiful time. The next few months are getting together with your board members, figuring out your budgets, figuring out what the strategy is for the new year, identifying what projects you want to tackle, and then start setting aside the funds for it. And then as you start formulating your budget, the beautiful thing about the show is that right towards the end of the year is when everybody's already got their sights set on, okay, we've got these, you know, these 5 things that we want to accomplish, whether it's renegotiating with vendors, bringing a new vendor for a service that just is inadequate in the association, or, you know, a big project that we want to undertake. You know, I really appreciate being able to go in there and it's a one-stop shop. You've got all of the different needs that you want. Really, in our world, it's 3, 4, 5 bids that you're trying to collect for a project. And it's nice to be able to go to each one at the show and figure out what it is that you need and start identifying that list and setting appointments. So it's a benefit from that standpoint.
What are you seeing right now if you were to think about some of your property clients? You guys are property management group, right? what's kind of trending right now with HOA co-op condos? Maybe a common thread or problem, maybe a city, state, local, federal regulation change. What are they grappling with?
And I think cost savings to me are always on the forefront of our mind and
Cost savings?
board members' mind. So
Okay.
if there's anything that is going to offer to meet the need of an association, can do something innovative to save us some money, that certainly really helps, especially as you create momentum with these budgets for future projects. There's still some level of recovery happening from storms from the past, and we're still addressing some of those things. Really thinking about if a storm hits, and we've got our plans already in place, but Lord knows that it's still a free-for-all in some cases in the event that a storm resources are limited. So looking at making sure you've got backups for whatever services you need post-storm, things of that nature are trending right about now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Mary, what's happening in your world? What's got your attention?
We're undergoing a couple of different projects in our community right now. So with it also being pool season, the common areas are getting heavy usage. So I'm concerned about finishing up those projects, making sure that we go through the rest of the pool season and the summer without any issue. And then on top of that, also concerned about the whole FEMA situation of whether or not they'll be picking up costs for the next big storm that happens behind gates.
Okay, so pool season, storm, similar with you. Laura, what's got your attention?
Well, one of the properties that I manage, I'm looking into long-term life of paint, and with modern technology, products are getting so much better all the time. When I first started, I've been a property manager for 25 years, and it started with a beeper. But now we have paint that the life of the paint is lasting more and more over time. And I'd like to be proactive so that to prevent water intrusion, caulking's getting better, that kind of thing. So I do have a project coming up in the near future for painting, preventing water intrusion. Another property I manage, we have, it's right on the Intracoastal in Boynton Beach, and the mansard roofs have Gavaloon, which is an inferior product, especially being in that particular application with the salt water. So at some point, the buildings that are mainly facing the water, we're going to have to go ahead and replace the mansards. They're getting completely rusted through. So that's another project that's in the near future that I am interested in pursuing.
All right, thank you.
In more detail.
Tony, what's got your attention over there?
I'm more of a, we can worry about the projects, and those are all good things and what we want to do next, but ultimately, I guess my concern is somebody has to pay for them. And the homeowners or unit owners are usually the ones that do. So even though it's a collective financial arrangement, it still comes down to you have to pay for it. So I'm more in the thought process of I try to come up with creative ways to save communities money on a particular project. We usually are able to, since we manage about 150 communities, more or less. I'll give you an idea. Like I'll get my managers together and we'll ask them, hey, how many of you guys are painting your community? Or how many of you guys are doing a roadway? What we'll do is we'll pick a list of certified or qualified vendors, and then we'll go to them and say, hey, look, I got 10 jobs I can give you. What's a discount you can give all my communities? And so we try to come up with different ideas like that and say, okay, I'll give you a 10 or 15% discount across the board for all these people. So now that translates to a savings individually for your community. So I try to come up with creative ways like that to manage the things, because in the end, again, somebody has to pay for it, and what's the best way we can do it economically?
Okay, thank you, Tony. And Jill, I'd like to hear from two angles with you. One is your HOA, but also with CAI. What's going on with you guys? What are you seeing? What are you focused on?
Well, basically, I'd have to echo Mary's thoughts since we're pretty much in the same community. So the pool situation, the summer situation, undergoing a painting project that we're doing for the community. And as far as CAI, I think on a trade show level, since we have one as well, I think it's so important for us to bring to the managers, to the board members, the best qualified candidates for their needs. And I think that if we can present those options, it's a great thing. And that's why people need to come to trade shows, to shop around and see what businesses fit with their needs.
Okay, thank you. So take us forward in time. So you've got the Cooperator show is when, December, first week? The dates of that. Yes, thank you. So it's 4 weeks before show. You know you've got a show on your calendar coming up. What's happening either back with the property management team or with the board? What do you do to prepare for a show? You know you've got this one day out there. You know you've got sessions you can go to. You've got colleagues that are going to be there. You've got vendors that are going to be there. How do you prepare for a show? What do you guys do to get ready to make sure that you get the most out of that day out of the office? How do you prepare?
Wish I could say I'd prepare a little more for, I think what really helps me is right around the 6 weeks out, I start getting a bunch of emails about folks who are exhibiting at the show. And every once in a while, it'll come across my inbox, a vendor that I worked with in the past. And so I'll send them a note back and say, hey, let's get together, let's have lunch together while we're there, and benefit from the opportunity to reconnect during that time of the year. Sometimes we go a whole year. And the only time we connect is at the Cooperator. Things are moving so fast. So I really appreciate the fact that everybody starts sending out in their campaigns emails. They start sending out messages. Come see me at the booth. Come, here's my value proposition, and it helps to identify that. It's a positive impression that helps to set the tone for that's somebody that I remembered that I need to reach out to. I think that familiarity pre-show helps. When somebody's casually walking by the booth, even if they haven't never had a relationship with them, they do subconsciously know who that is, or it's not an introduction. The other thing I like to do is that I invite board members, and if I have an opportunity, if I'm not working the booth myself, I'll go out and walk the aisles with them, and we'll talk about some of the different things that we're working on, and I'll make introductions to some of the vendors I've worked with in the past that have done great work for me, and just make those connections. So on our part, getting board members out to these events is incredibly beneficial.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pre-show preparation, how do you prepare? What's happening in your board, your co-op, or your business so that you're ready to get the most?
So I think for board members and the layperson, we're just thinking about, or once we start seeing what classes there are, which ones we're interested in, which ones seem interesting, the time frame, finding out who's going, who you're going with. We're not going into that whole side of it and looking into it in that manner. We're more looking at it from the average, everyday perspective of, what do we need, what project's coming up, what table will I be going to, and who's going.
Yes. Pre-show prep. Anything you would add?
Ditto what she just said. In addition to planning on whatever projects I have in the near future or far future for budgeting, what particular contractors' booths I want to narrow in on.
Okay. Thank you.
I go around and I try to get the free pens and candies. Maybe an umbrella with a light on the bottom. I'm just kidding.
Hear that light on the bottom?
So what you want to do is, I tell my managers or my board members, for your particular community, oh, what are you doing today? Oh, we need to get pool umbrellas, and then we need to do an elevator remodeling, and then we need to do this. So make a list ahead of time, because of course, time, you only have so much time. And then go there specifically with that agenda and look for those vendors out of the Cooperator book that are doing that first. So get that off your list first, because that's your goal. So when you go back to your board or your manager or whoever it is at your next meeting, you can say, well, I met so-and-so and I met this company and they do this and this is what we're looking for. Then after you get that out of the way, then of course you can go to the rest of the booths and see what else is of interest and meet some people and everything else. But try to get those first items out of the way that's going to be pertaining to your community particularly. So I always try to tell all board members, try to become an expert in your community, which just means you're going to become a general expert in everything. And how do you know that you've reached that point? When you get together with your husband or your wife and you go to a friend's house for a dinner, and as you pull up to the driveway, you say, damn, look at that, they could really pressure clean their roof. Then you know that you've arrived, and that's, you're starting to get in the right mindset.
Ditto what Tony said, basically. He took my thunder, because that's what I was going to say. Just be prepared and hit the highlights first.
So I think what we heard is there's pre-show planning going on. They're coming to the show with a pretty clear hit list of the projects that are coming up, the problems you're having, the solutions you're looking for. Pretty prepared, a lot of places to stop. So I want to ask the question, there's a lot of exhibitors, we're all here. We want to be on your agenda. We want to be on your must-see list at the top of your list. What advice could you give us as exhibitors? Like Mitch, you mentioned email.
Yeah.
So how would we get on your agenda? What advice would you give us? Where do you want to see us in terms of visibility? What can we do to get on your agenda? If you were talking to an exhibitor, here's how you can get on my agenda. Do this. Mitch, what would you tell them?
I mean, any channel that you can possibly work, right? If you have some indication of who's coming to the show and you have an ability to market to them, it's not hard to find someone. So whether making a phone call and quickly introducing yourself, following up with emails, social media, any which way that you can make an impression and try to gain a commitment, that's the way to go about it.
So phone, email, social media.
Yeah.
Do you use LinkedIn more than others, or are you on Facebook, Twitter?
Yeah, LinkedIn gives me the ability to reach out to somebody via messaging that I don't have a connection with. So,
Okay.
So that certainly helps.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I would say that works in terms of targeting the right person.
And then email.
The phone is it, right? So if you
Telephone.
identify who it is, there's no greater sales tool than the phone. So you can quickly make a connection. Even if you're just leaving a bunch of messages, you'd be amazed at who shows up at your booth that you thought you never would have had an opportunity
Really?
to connect with. Yeah.
Telephone.
Yeah.
Mary, how would we get on your agenda?
That's interesting because I don't like the phone call.
Right.
I'd rather have the email, see it on Facebook. I don't want to be pressured in the way of the phone call. I want to see the email or the Facebook or something on social media where I can pick and choose, and I'd love to see some kind of savings, and that would draw me more to going, I really have to go check that out.
Okay.
I need this, and that company or whatever is offering X, Y, and Z. So
like a show special?
yeah, something in the direction that it would either save my community money, I'd learn something from it, but I wouldn't enjoy the phone call.
Okay. And that's what we want. I want to really hear the different perspectives because I think you're going to see everybody's different. How about you?
Well, I agree. I particularly don't care for the phone calls, but I agree with what you had said earlier in your workshop, that as far as snail mail, that I still read my mail, and you all have property managers' addresses. I know you do because I do get, that's how I get the information in the mail. And in that brochure or whatever that I do get in the mail, and what you were describing earlier as far as eye-popping attention getters in that, just to get my attention, what products you have, how do you stand out more than others, what modern technologies, I said before, what that's evolving, that things are getting better all the time. What do you have to offer me that I'm going to go ahead and hang on to that? I'm going to save that for, at some point I'm going to have an asphalt job to do. I'm going to have some project to do. That there's always something with every single one of you. I'm sure that I'm going to need a vendor of your type at some point, plumbing, you name it. So that's what I recommend. Still mail.
Mail, yeah. Okay. Tony, what do you think? I want to get on your agenda. I want to be on that list. How do I get there?
Well, it's kind of funny. My degree's in marketing, so I guess this is kind of up my alley. Believe it or not, my favorite thing about vendors is when they come to my office. They actually
Oh.
go out of their way to visit me, drop
In-person
off
visit.
material. I'm making eye contact. I'm meeting somebody. That generally gets me as somebody really making an effort, and then I'll send a manager or myself out to that vendor's office to go visit their company, talk to them a little bit, and I'll get a sense of what kind of work ethics they have, and that's kind of my favorite thing. Emails are pretty good, but let's face it, we tend not to really read all our emails. Direct marketing works to an extent, but you're only going to get 3 to 5% of that back. So I know the phone call is kind of terrible too, but hey, you know, if you get a phone call or something from somebody, but I think a direct visit works well. So.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to agree with the lack of phone calls. I don't enjoy getting them myself, so I don't particularly think that that's a very effective way of attracting whatever. Direct mail, I'm not a great fan of, and I do like getting emails because I do read my emails. And the biggest thing that nobody's really touched on, I believe that some sort of incentive, a raffle or that is something that people like. And I think it's proven that, I don't know what the percentages would be, but to me, it's definitely an incentive to go listen to somebody, for sure.
Okay, so you can see you can hear everybody's different. And we don't really know. You kind of know now for each one of these if you're targeting. But we don't really know what specific channel someone's going to respond to. So when we talked about pre-show marketing, the idea of having an integrated campaign that's, using multiple media, it's not overdoing it, not sending you an email every day, right, or 2 times a day for like 27 days, but using the different media, like email, and then a postcard, an oversized postcard, right, and then a connect on LinkedIn, and then an invitation to join a group or a social media post. What media are you guys in terms of like the Cooperator? Are you guys dialed in to the Cooperator? Or are you looking at print media today in terms of, to stay abreast of things and for your information? Cooperator, so print too. So we don't know. So I think when we really market, the idea is to try to be visible, be everywhere, to build that familiarity and that awareness. And some people like phone. Some don't, right? The phone can be intrusive, right? Because you don't know how long the call is going to go. And so if you are going to use the phone, use it very smartly. But it's building your campaign. So let's open up for questions from you guys. We're in the pre-show phase. The goal is we want to understand preparation, how to get on their agenda. Yes?
Everyone's done a pretty good job letting us know what we could do. Yeah. What should we do? What is too much?
How much is too much, and what really should we do, like if we want to get on your agenda? How much is too much?
For me, the phone calls is too much. And if I did pick up the phone and I'm kind of in a rush or want to go, it drives me crazy if the person wants to just keep talking.
Or something like our language or our approach, whatever medium we choose.
What would turn you off? I don't want to come in and tell you, if I have a product for your HOA, I don't want to tell you you're doing it wrong and we have the solution, but what would turn you off in terms of, that's what I shouldn't do to anybody?
I think the value of the message, you got to balance the sales pitch versus the education.
Yeah.
I think as managers, I think we're tasked with, I would say we're not experts in any one thing where we know a little bit about a lot of things, right? It's part of the nature of the job. We're always, I think, part of the job, and certainly board members as well, there's a thirst for knowledge. So if you're offering something via email or something that is offering some insight about a better way, a value add to doing something, to
Yes.
tackling your next project, to cost savings, to anything innovative, anything that we can take and share at a board meeting and say, hey, look, this is something interesting that came across my inbox or across my, my desk. I think that really helps. I think that's where the higher click rates go. I know personally for our business, that's where we see the greatest value of our marketing efforts is when we're educating our consumer, which is board members, on the things that they need to know about statutory updates, about how to tackle a project, about what to look for when you're putting together a request for proposal for a vendor. So each of you are experts in your given field. Educate, and when you educate, I think you build credibility with the end user.
Yeah, no, that's really sound advice on the education. In the telephone today, the best use of the phone, I use the phone a lot. What I've found is the purpose, when I do go to phone, I usually proceed with email. I'm not trying to drag you onto the phone and take you deep into the woods. I'm just trying to find out is there interest and use the phone to set an appointment. Now you would say, yeah, I'm very interested in that, but not, I got you on the phone, let me start dumping on you, right? But use the phone, if you're going to use the phone, as a way to try to set appointments. So the outcome is tracking, was able to connect, does she have a need, can we set a time, not like a bull in a china shop. And what Mitch said is dead on. You guys are all like experts. And if you'll sit down and think about what are the top 5 things that you can teach your audience and sprinkle that content throughout your marketing, your social media, your website, extremely useful, yeah. Questions? Yes, I'll jump right around here. I'll work around, yes.
So if you go to a trade show and you have a product from them, and you see a vendor that does that service, how do you know you can trust them? And how can the vendor prove their trust to you that they'll do a good job and be good? You know what I mean?
How does a vendor prove trust? Great question.
We ask for blood and DNA samples.
Okay, that's good.
What you're going to do is you're going to make a list. First of all, you're going to ask for a referral list. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to have yourself or your manager physically go see the work that they've done. And you're going to then you're going to also do some research online yourself because, of course, I'm going to give you my best vendors. People who have been friends for 20 years. You're going to say whatever I tell them. So you're going to go ahead and take that extra step and try to research it yourself also. Well, how do I do that? Well, if it's a big asphalt job and it's in a particular city, call up the city and ask for any other jobs or license permits that were applied for other jobs and see, go see those yourself. It takes a little bit of due diligence, but you kind of get to know the waters after a while of what vendors, are out there that do good and whatever. Also, look, I'm a big advocate of sincerity. I don't like a vendor that's going to come in and tell me, well, you suck and you've been doing it wrong all this time. That's kind of a big turnoff. If I have a vendor that comes to me and says, hey, look, I think we can help you. If I can't, okay, but I think we have maybe a better approach, then I know that, they're sincere about helping. And, I approach it from that side. I also look at the personality of that person and try to just get a general feeling for it. But that's me.
Yeah, so anything to add on how to prove trust, build trust?
I think that for myself, in the organizations that I go to, like the Broward Coalition or the CAI or any kind of class that I end up showing up to, the more I end up seeing a vendor and building a relationship with them, as far as just seeing their face around, hearing the name of the company, I would think that I would hear something negative at some point. So when I start seeing them a lot and I don't hear something negative, I feel more like I'm trusting them or that they're out there doing a good job, because I would have heard something.
So frequency and visibility of the vendor. Right?
Also, educate yourself on that particular project, whatever it is that vendor does, so you know as much as, at least as much as they do about what it is that you're getting. Okay, question them. Well, what kind of asphalt are you going to use, and what is this, and what kind of sealer? Ask those general questions. Just don't take the word of the vendor, so that the vendor sees, okay, well, I'm not dealing with a stupid person here. They obviously know the right questions to ask. So even if you got to go on YouTube and say, what questions to ask a vendor, do that.
Yeah.
Fake being intelligent, that's all.
Yeah.
I would add one thing. Know who your customers are. So if you have managers that are walking up to the booth and you can see what management company they're with, and you know that you've done work with another manager in that management company, there's no greater sense of comfort than knowing that one of your peers had a successful interaction with someone, and just making that link, knows that, hey, they already worked with somebody else, they did a good job for them. I feel a heck of a lot better. The referrals and references are incredibly powerful when it comes to letting your guard down and feel good about what, who you're going to work with.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. So one of the things, we've been in business quite a long time, and there's that saying that the devil isn't smart because he's a devil, he's smart because he's old. And one of the things that we have found is that once property managers find a vendor that they're comfortable with, that they trust, that has done good work for them over and over and over, it's virtually impossible for a new vendor that does the same thing to penetrate that relationship. What would be the most effective way, in your opinion, for a new vendor that's been around a long time, but someone that would like to introduce themselves to you, to get your attention and perhaps get the opportunity to serve you? What would be the best way, in your opinion?
It's a good one. So you've got an incumbent that you love. They do the same thing. They would like to somehow get a foot in the door. Great question. How do you do that? What advice would you give them?
In my opinion, when you do find a good vendor, they're gold, and I'm loyal to that vendor because they're loyal with their services. So if you do ever have the opportunity when there is bidding time, because we do need to get more than one bid, to be able to, as we had discussed before, what is it that makes you stand out? That you still can do as good a job, or if not better, than the company that I've already been using.
So how does the vendor find out when the bidding time is, if not by either a phone call or an email that you may just repeat? How is that the best way to approach?
And what I usually do, as I said before, I just gather the information from each company. Then when it is time for me to get a bid, I'll go, yeah, because one thing that is annoying to me is someone hounding me. Okay, in 5 months you're going to get bids. Okay, I'm going to don't forget about me, and just the nagging I don't appreciate. If I say that, I'll keep your information in hand when it is time for bidding, if the opportunity strikes, then I will, give you that opportunity.
Okay.
Look, it's really hard to get, you're never going to know when communities are going to get a bid for something. So, right. So, again, a little bit more legwork. So let's say you're in your general area, and for example, what is it you do?
We're high-rise painting, water and concrete restoration.
Okay, so let's say, high-rise restoration. Let's take, for example, Miami Beach. They're having a big issue now because a lot of their buildings are way over 40 years old, and a lot of them are having balcony cracking, exposed rebar, all that kind of stuff. So maybe get a general list of those ones there, from the city. They'll even provide it for you for free.
But how do I get past your preferred vendor?
That's a tough one. Like she said, when you find a good vendor and you can trust them, and you can then send them there blind-eyed and not have to worry about it because they're going to do a good job. That's a tough one. So, but as she mentioned, you do have to get 3 bids, especially for really large projects. So it's just going to have to be up to your persistence. I'm not going to lie to you.
The interesting thing with that is not getting through or past their preferred vendor. It's somehow getting the board members to know that you exist. Because the board member makes the ultimate decision. So if the manager decides, hey, I like ABC Caulking Company, but Jill and Mary wants to try XYZ is going to get tried. So somehow building that relationship or getting the board members to end up knowing that you exist would be the better plan than just trying to get past that preferred vendor list of that manager.
It's one thing.
I think that's a great idea, because that has happened to me before, where a board member gets that information from a contractor and they feel that they're obligated to act on it and say, okay, here, get a bid from them.
It's going to have to, if they say it, it's going to happen.
We have to do it.
Yeah, manager might be the gatekeeper, but the board has the ultimate decision, right? So, and the nice thing is that you got 5, 7, 9 board members to connect with and to sway. So if you can get to the dance, you got as good a chance as any if you sell it properly. So I wouldn't be discouraged too many folks. Manager could be a great entrance into the community, and if you've got a great relationship with the board, you know, an effective manager is going to make their recommendation based on past history, and that carries a ton of weight in the bid process. But if you present well, if you're offering great insight, you're offering great value, at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars and cents and perceived value, and you have just as good a chance to sway multiple board members than you do a manager's recommendation.
Thank you. Yeah, let me move forward. We got a bunch of questions. Yes, sir.
Just following along that same line of, you know, the established relationship with the vendor, how would a factor come into play, for example, where, let's say you have had a long-term relationship with a vendor, so you're very comfortable with that, but potentially there's advancements in either technology or, you know, since it's so comfortable for so long, then potentially new and additional business may not come in at the best deal possible. Does that come in as a factor in terms of evaluating any new business with that vendor, or as was being discussed, you know, looking at other possible vendors?
You mean as far as they're more expensive? Did I understand you?
Yeah, they're more expensive, or there's technological
Yeah.
advances which you may need to look at a broader scope in your shopping, so to speak.
Well, that's absolutely true, yeah. I mean, I just learned of a new elevator pit resealing process that I didn't know about a couple of months ago, and did it at 3 or 4 of our buildings. And it was a little bit more of an expensive process. When I started doing the research of the product they use and the warranty available, you know, you're absolutely 100% right that sometimes you don't, you know, you get what you pay for kind of thing.
Sure,
But
how did you find out about that to start researching it, and does that open a door to potentially new relationships?
Yeah, it actually did. That opened the door for a new relationship with that particular company, which I was like 110% impressed with. But it was called TG Oil Services, and that's what they do they just restore your elevator pits for you. But I actually got that as a referral from another high-rise that we do in Miami Beach, a yacht club there. And so I called him up, and the first thing the guy said was, hey, I can talk to you on the phone, but can I take you to lunch or come to your office? Again, I was impressed with that, and he came by, and I had to dump the other couple of people we had been using for that, because they just offer such a superior product with advanced technology. So, you know, sometimes it does work, but that's up to your property manager to have to look for. You know, or a board member, you too.
Thank you.
As you said before, with the age of buildings, when you're planning for your budget, how much is the consideration of problems on hand now as compared to preventive issues that's going to come up in the future? And again, back into the bids, typically when you get 3 bids, they tend to go for the cheapest, and I've been getting called back, we should have gone with you, they were cheaper, but they ended up being more expensive. How can you circumvent that?
Well, what you want to do is, when you're looking at your budget, you're going to look at your life expectancy for each item, obviously. And it's going to come down to even small things, like your pool pump. You know, even though you replace it, and let's say you spend $750 to $1,200 and you got a brand new one, you know in 2 years something's going to happen. The bearings are going to go, because it's an item that's running 24/7. So account for that and throw an extra $700 or $1,000 into your budget for that on your pool line item or whatever it is. Also go by your past records. Say you got a roof on the pool cabana, or you're in a condo and you've been look over the last 3 years. I'm married, by the way, to a German accountant. That's the only reason I know this stuff. She kind of keeps me straight financially, but all right, how many repairs have I done here? So for instance, I know Mary's a big advocate of this in her community. Okay, how much have we spent on this particular line item for the past couple of years? And then you gauge that as a formula moving forward. It's just common sense. The same thing you would do with your house, with your car, anything, you know. You're going to have to sit down and do your best guess expectations, but based on what you've spent in the past. And it'll give you an idea. And also, another thing you hear a lot about are reserve studies. Reserve studies are good, but I'm not a really big fan of it, because it comes down to saving. I'm a big money-saving advocate. So have your property manager or board contact 3 different vendors, even ones that you work with or have a close relationship with. Take them up on the roof or the pool or resurfacing, whatever it may be, and say, hey, look, take a look at this. Tell me how much longer this is going to last. And he says, hey, look, well, you did the pool resurfacing about 5 years ago, so I'm going to give you about another 2 years. And apply that into your budget preparation, or for the future, so you know, okay, I'm going to have to start preparing that. How much is it going to cost? Oh, it's $10,000 to resurface the pool. Okay, well, I know that I have 2 years left, and I got to come up with $10,000, and that's 24 months. Basic formula like that, and at least you're being prepared ahead of time. You don't know how many associations I go and they say, well, we just we didn't know that. Or they're a condominium and they always vote down to fund their reserves or their savings. Preparation is kind of the best thing you can do for that. So get a list of vendors. They'll come in, they'll offer that service for free, and they'll tell you how long you have left on your roof, what condition it's in, everything. That's the same thing a reserve study company does. And at least you get that for free. No knocking any reserve study companies or vendors if you're here. Sorry about that.
I would say in terms of combating the low-cost provider mentality, be transparent in pricing. So oftentimes you get a proposal and you get 3 proposals and you're trying to figure out how you arrived at that cost, depending on what it is. So especially if it's a service and you got heavy labor involved in that project, explain to me how you arrived at the numbers, because the biggest challenge for a manager is putting together a apples to apples comparison for a board. Where I found the greatest advantage is, you think about the average manager, they got a lot of work on their plate. Those who build trust early in the process, who help the manager and the board understand what a bid spec should look like for this type of project, to make sure that you're controlling the way that the work is going to be done. If you can get past that, if you can offer that value and lay out some of the things that a manager would struggle with because they just don't either have the time for it or just don't have the understanding of the complexity of it, then you're controlling the bid, right? So theoretically, you're offering the insight as to what the standard as to what everybody should bid to. And then it becomes harder the more transparent you are with how, even down to profit. I'm getting to a point where I'm offering people some understanding of how much we're making managing the community, so that they understand where every dollar, every penny goes to. And it really helps understand what the time element of it is. What are the non-negotiables? If you're going to accomplish this level of project, what are the things that there's no way that somebody can do it for 20-30% cheaper, because it just comes down to the labor component or the materials or whatever it is. So the more you're transparent, the more you educate, the more you help create some structure in the bid process, I think the greater your chances are going to be to win.
Good advice. Questions over in this group? Yes, please.
Yeah. So how would you say for further down the line projects? That's happened a few times where we meet someone and it's like, oh yeah, we're looking for a new vendor in this area, but we're in a contract or a lease for 2 or 3 years. But it's a sour relationship at that point with who they have. So what would you say is the appropriate amount of contact? Since we really can't do anything until then. How often should we stay in touch? How far ahead should we be giving you information, proposals, looking at that?
How often to stay in touch to keep that top of the mind awareness without being a pest?
First of all, shame on you. Don't enter into those kind of contracts. You should always have at least 30, 60, or 90-day out, unless it's going to be something like an elevator contract, which they require a little bit more long-term. But if you push them enough, you can get like 2 years or 3 years max out of them, not 5, 7, or 10 years. But anyway, with that said, I would say about a year out, stay in touch with that person and say, hey, look, we're going to start planning this project. And also, if you were in a contract, please read your contracts. That's another thing, another seminar that I give. Make sure that you read it thoroughly and check the termination clause, that it doesn't say that a herd of zebras have to be crossing at midnight on a clear evening before you can cancel that, because there are a lot of those, or with cause and that kind of stuff. So just protect yourself from that end. So.
Okay.
Thank you. There's another side of that. The other side of that is, if you're out there in the industry and the managers and board members know that you exist, when they're ready to look for someone, they're going to find you. So if you're advertising in the Cooperator and you're a member of all these organizations and you're supporting the functions and you're around and they're seeing and hearing your name, they're more comfortable with you. They're going to find you.
Nice job. Those questions were well phrased. I'm happy to tell you guys, sometimes we get people that pitch. You guys did a fabulous job. Let's go to the at show. It's a one-day show, right? You've got some educational sessions going on. You've got the exhibit hall. You've got the kind of colleagues, friends there. How do you kind of manage that day? You come with a pretty firm agenda. You pretty loose. How do you manage the day when you're at the show? How do you accomplish? Like you said, you have a punch-out list, and you knock that out first, and then you pretty much freewheel. What do you do in terms of when you're at the event, in terms of managing time to make sure that you get done what you want to get done? Do you have a clear schedule? Like you come to the show, you've got, I have this session from 7 to 9. Then I'm going to meet with my key, my current vendors from 9 to 11.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have that's based on your time schedule and your priorities. So you're going to have to set that yourself. I mean, nobody can say, well, that's something that you're going to have to do and just maximize your time. We all have busy lives.
Yeah.
I know I do. So just maximize it. Hit your priorities first, like I said earlier, and then just go to each one of the after. And, while you're freewheeling, as you said, you'll run into other vendors. You say, maybe I need that guy in 3 months or whatever it is, that kind of thing. So.
Okay. So let's go to booths. I'm going to ask a double-edged sword question here and maybe attack it from this attracts me, this repels me. So you're in the exhibit hall, you're walking through the hall. What is going to cause you to notice a booth and I want to go in there? And on the flip side, what's going to go, no way, not a chance.
I don't like spinning wheels.
No games.
Don't like games.
Contests.
I like when the product is displayed and it's actually showing the product.
Presentation.
Presentation is a really big thing. Again, my marketing background. And that's what I like to see. I'm there to see something. I'm not there to get a drink or have a pina colada. I'm there for a specific reason. And if it comes down to my time management too, I don't really have time to spin the wheel for a chance to win something down the road.
Okay, so you're advanced. Don't use gimmicks and have like a practical presentation demonstration. Attracts, repels. Mitch, I would go to your booth.
I actually see it the opposite. So just from the mind of who's stopping by booths. So there's two different types of vendors. One who sit at the table and they're on their phone, they're not looking up, they're not engaged. The gimmicky stuff, the wheels, all that stuff, while I could see it could be perceived as silly, it attracts people. I mean, there's a line at booths.
Yeah.
I think there's a value to, there's two things that you're trying to have at your booth, like much to what you said earlier. You're trying to have valuable conversations and trying to get to know what the needs of that prospect are, but there's a lot of value to that lead. So getting somebody's name and contact information and knowing that you have the ability to follow up with them down the road, I'd say it's a whirlwind walking out of that show. You don't really, if you're there all day, you've been in classes, you're trying to walk through the aisles, you're trying to figure out who you met with and who you talked to. It takes you a few days to process it. But when somebody's following up and reinforcing with a phone call and just say, hey, I met you at the show, just wanted to see if you wanted to get lunch or something, whatever that is, that little raffle, to me, the raffles work. Buy a TV, buy, whatever it is that you can attract people. People like that. They put their contact information in your bowl, whatever it is. And if you have the ability to reach out to them at a later date and establish that connection, that's incredibly valuable in a world where you just don't, there's a lot of gatekeepers,
Okay, so you actually do like the contests or the...
Personally, I could give it, I'm not going there to get tchotchkes, but there's a section of the population that is, and the ability to attract them and to be able to build a relationship with them by attracting them to your booth is half the battle, right? So just getting foot traffic at your booth is so incredibly valuable, right? So
it is
getting
funny,
that contact information, that lead.
It's funny that a busy booth tends to stay busy, especially on a one-day show, and dead booth tends to stay dead,
Totally.
right? So like what repels if you're walking down and this is going?
I mean,
and
if
this
somebody's
could
not
be-
engaged, there's a good chance I'm not stopping by
They just-
unless I have a specific need. Now, if somebody's standing up, they make eye contact with me and they greet me and they, extend a hand, kind of feel obligated to go over, and then you never know where the conversation goes. Sometimes I walk out of there going, I may not need you today, but the next time something comes up, I've got my list of contacts, and I remember, yeah, that was somebody who, it's all about impressions, right? So
Yeah.
it was somebody who I established a connection with, and I know more than anybody else in that specific space.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so for you, staff that are looking and acting like they don't want to be there, that's your repellent.
I can't. I mean,
Unless you
spend-
absolutely
spend a
need
good
one.
amount of money. It's a healthy investment to do it right. And it's amazing to me when you walk by a booth and somebody's literally on their phone for most of the day, not engaged. I just don't know the chance of hoping somebody stops by because they were targeting you or something to none. You're going there to establish relationships, not necessarily reinforce them, right?
Right. So Mary, attract, repel.
Yeah.
So for a board member, for myself, I like to be able to come up to the booth, know clearly what they're selling. If I don't know what they're selling, I usually will not stop. I'll just keep going. I don't want to take the time to try to figure it out or ask them, what is this? That's one. The second would be I'd love walking away with something that is educational that I can keep for later on or share with other board members or one of the organizations I'm with. That's great. And then also the things that are turnoffs is the phone thing or not having somebody to communicate with if I do have a question because they're busy on a phone. I've seen that many, many times. And trying to sell me something with somebody in stilettos or a mini skirt, that's another huge turnoff. I'm not even going to bother. So, to me already now you started to be a little bit deceptive and I don't want to bother.
Okay, so no booth babes for Mary. Laura, attracts, repels.
As far as attracts, I'll admit I have put my business card in many fish bowls. And I have won TVs, chocolates, cleaning supplies. But then I also feel obligated when I go to your booth. I agree too, something has to jump out at me that I know what you're selling. But I will pick up your literature too though, because I don't want to just put my card in to try to win something, because now I feel obligated. I need to get your information. So that was a good investment for you to buy that TV for the raffle. But also be aside of the giveaways. Even if you don't have a giveaway, if I see something, the before and after, as you had pointed out, or something that really, before we were talking about a new product. Okay, here's a new paint for steel that it's got a longer lifespan to where you don't have to keep replacing those steel columns and things like that to show me before and after, and that sort of thing. So that's definitely a good eye catcher. How you do stand out amongst others. And as far as a turnoff for me, I know you had mentioned the safe zone in the aisles that we're just walking through. Please don't jump in front of me and try to trip me and drag me by the arm to take me in, because you are just so convinced your product is so great. If anything, then I'm just going to want to run away. That's just not a good. Too forceful is not good. But if you just sort of stand back as soon as you do get that eye contact that I might be interested in what product you have, that first sentence you have for me, the sales pitch, what you have to offer. Okay, I'm interested in learning more. Tell me more. You've got me. I do have that project coming up. I would like to learn more about your windows or about whatever it is that you have to offer.
Okay, thank you.
No, I like learning personally. Like Mary said,
Learning.
I like to learn something new all the
Yeah.
time. Knowledge is power. And damn, even though I got to get rid of those stiletto heels now. But if you can learn something in a booth, I love that.
Learning it's a big attractor. We talk about the 3 reasons we go to shows: network, sourcing, learning. The under-optimized area for all of us is, what I'm hearing is learning, teaching them very quickly. 3 things that you got to know about where roofing's heading. Waterproofing, the 3 biggest problems with waterproofing, how to avoid them. Attracts, repels.
I'm with Mary. The biggest turnoff is unprofessionalism. You have to look professional. attract. I like it when a booth is welcoming, and instead of sitting behind a table, move the table back maybe and stand in front and just make yourself more approachable, as it were. And I do like to see a presentation of, like if you're a roofing company, bring some roof tiles, bring some samples of something.
Something to see, touch.
Yeah,
something to
touch
do.
and feel, exactly.
Yeah, not just a video.
So that's it.
So questions on the at-show phase? Any questions you have that are at the show, how to make your exhibit more effective? Yeah.
As far as promotional materials, you have all kinds of stuff. You got the pens, the notepads, all the little things. Does any of that matter? And if it does, what stuff is more valuable to you and what stuff is just a waste? Don't even get those. You know what I mean?
Treasure, trash.
All right, pens get lost and this and that. So personally, again, marketing, I like something that I'm going to see every day. And believe it or not, what I see every day is a coffee mug.
Yeah.
Because I get coffee every day, every morning. I have to have it. Or a water bottle. Because it's on my desk. I go to fill it every morning. And every day I'm going to see, oh my God, there's AAA roofing. Let me go get my coffee. So subconsciously, maybe that's a good thing, I guess, for the vendor. Yeah. That's what I like personally. But
I like to-do lists with your logo on it, because that also is on your list, and I need a to-do list every day.
It's a very quick to-do list with your company branding on it, yeah. What else? Trash like this, junk, don't waste your money.
Well, I've got so many pens and tape measures and notepads. The sticky pads are pretty good, though. I do use a lot of sticky notes.
Post-its.
Post-its are great. Pens, I don't think so much. I mean, I think I like my basic pen, and so as far as any other products to buy for, not so much. I think more just to show the literature about your product, and I will bring that home, and I will keep it on file.
Okay, so takeaway, useful information, yeah.
The to-do list is a great one. The sticky notes are really good. Pens are trash. Those squeezy balls are trash. Squeezy hats are trash.
Yeah.
Something different also. I mean, you go by every table, it's the same exact thing on every table. Usually everybody has the little bowl of candy, the sticky stuff, the pen. So when you come across a table that has something different, you're like, oh, wow, check that out. And you're right away, hey, table whatever has.
Yeah.
the umbrella with the light.
Yes.
Yeah, so promotional products, unique, useful, unique, not something they're going to get anywhere, useful, quality, don't junk, right? And if you can tie your promotional product into a theme or a message, even better, right? I want to give you an example on the coffee mug. I did a pre-show campaign, targeted campaign to food processors in the Northwest, and we used the coffee mug. But our approach was we sent a letter of invitation. It was a new lab in the Pacific Northwest. We were targeting the big food manufacturers up there. We wanted to do lab testing services for food. And we got a pre-registered list. We mailed them a letter of invitation with a packet of custom coffee. And we said, hey, come by the booth, learn about, oh, by the way, when you come by the booth, we have a coffee mug for you at the booth. So we sent a little packet of coffee in advance with a mailer. We had a coffee cup at the booth, which you got when you came. And after the show, we sent a thank you note with a coaster, so on the desk. So the coaster on the desk, the mug on there, the coffee in it. Within 1 year, a new startup company was doing testing services for 40% of the processors in the Northwest in 1 year, which was fast. And the question was, did the coffee mug get us the business? And the answer was no. But what it did do is it got them to our booth. And by tying it pre, at, and post, and having it integrated, we were able to make a real strong impression right out of the box. So that was good stuff. I think we're close to out of time. Anyone have any final question? I'm going to give one big closing question. Does anyone have one final question? Yes.
Directed to attendees of the show, when you're thinking about the day of the show and you're planning, what are you going to do in that 7.5 or 8 hours? How exactly do you make that determination?
how do you decide what to do when you're at the show? I think we asked that earlier, but if there's anything you guys would add, how do you manage that day? How do you decide where to spend your time when you've got this overchoice? Is there anything you would add to that?
I guess sort of kind of as an overview, what we have said, we have classes to attend.
Classes.
Pick what classes to attend. Then when we are going to be going to the vendor booths. And what main projects I have to focus on.
Project list.
Roofing, right, okay, there's a roofing that, as you had said, sometimes I am limited on time. I walk down a row and I'm flying by the seat of my pants because I've only got a half an hour and I'm going to mainly focus on those particular booths that I do have projects coming up.
Okay, thank you.
How literally do you figure that out? Do you already have a list of your own people? Do you look at the Cooperator website? Do you have people to contact to do these row counts?
I just go row by row of your,
So
of
you
the,
just look at, you just go down
as, yep,
all the items.
yep.
Yeah, so like she's got a list and it's different. Some people, everybody knows the projects. Mitch said right out of the gate, budget, they know what's coming up. So they've got a hit list of what they're looking for and they want to use the show to try to find sources for that. So they're doing that.
Your hit list of categories. Is that sort of the concept?
Right, if I have roofing,
Categories, yeah.
right, if I have roofing, I want to hit the roofing. If I have painting, I want to hit the painting. And then after that, anything else that catches my eye.
All right, so here we go. Here, the final question. Okay, so, and it's a very short answer on you guys' part, but the question is, you have overchoice on what you want to buy. I mean, how many HVAC, how many painters, how many roofers, how many windows, how many pest control, how many landscape? You have overchoice. You literally live in the land of overchoice. So if we're going to be the ones that get and keep your business, what do we need to do or what do we need to be? To get and keep your business, do this, be this.
Cost-effective and reliable.
Cost-effective and reliable. Good advice. What else? Do and be, right? What else would you give?
Cost effective and reliable.
Yeah.
I always tell them,
Transparent was something that, Mitch, you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like if you can
Yeah.
really bring that element of transparency into your proposal, help them understand. What else? Anybody else? Do and be.
That kind of covers everything.
The cost of, that covers it all. Okay.
I'd say the biggest thing is be present. I think about some of the more popular vendors in serving our industry. They're going to the CAI meeting.
Be present.
They're coming to the expo. The best ones, you know them and you've built relationships with them because you see them at every single event. So if you know where a manager is going to be there, right? So just do everything in your power. I know it's hard. It's a hard thing to do, and sometimes costly. But any of these events that you can be at, anytime you can get the opportunity to present a class, man, I mean, you're just coming at somebody from giving them value, giving them education, as opposed to trying to sell them something. The sale usually comes as a byproduct of the value and the
That's a
expertise
pretty good
they
one,
bring.
actually. Be present.
Yeah, be present.
Be visible. Be there, right?
Yeah.
Be honest. Be transparent.
and the final thought, I know because we're short on time here, but it has nothing to do with the final question, but ask questions. I can tell for board members, let me see how many board members I have here. Raise your hands.
Board members.
Board members of your communities? That's it? Oh, well, ask questions. Don't be, even if you ask it 5 times, which can be annoying to managers, but don't worry about it because you're doing your job and you're on top of it. But don't take anything for granted, I would say, and just look out for the best interest of your community because at the end, it's your money. So thank you, guys.
All right, well, thanks. Round of applause for our panel. Yes, yes. All right, so we're going to wind down. We're going to have lunch in a minute, but I want to obviously thank them. I want to thank all of you guys for coming out and spending this day with us. So round of applause for you guys in here. It's like when you come to an event like this, or you read a book, or you go to a seminar, or whatever, if you can get one idea, that you can take back and actually apply, it can change everything. My hope is that you got many ideas here between the content I presented, between the feedback from your actual customers. And also want to give a round of applause to, the Henry, Peter, the team at Yale Robbins. I've done 200 shows over my career, like you exhibited, and I always felt like the only time I heard from the show organizer was when they wanted to sell me something, or they wanted a check, or they sent me that service kit with all that crap I had to do. And to work with a team that their philosophy is that they're not successful unless you are. That is a really unique philosophy in show organizers, and so they will do anything and everything. They're super responsive. They want you to succeed, Sometimes they want exhibitor success more than some exhibitors appear to want it. But you got a great team over here, partner, who will bend over backwards to do. If you haven't done a Cooperator show and you've done maybe other, give one a try. You will not be disappointed. I've been at many of them. And most importantly, as we close this down, everyone's heard the saying that knowledge is power. I'm not so sure. I think there's a lot of smart, broke people out there. Knowledge intelligently applied is power. So to know is one thing, to do is another. What I want all of you to do before you leave after lunch and everything, I want you to at least capture 3 very specific, actionable things that you're going to walk out of here and do for your next show. Because when you get into the tornado, you go back to the office today, the phone's ringing, the emails piled up. I would also encourage you, I went through a program called Accelerated Learning Techniques. I would encourage you to take this workbook that you interacted with today, and number 1, within 24 hours, review it end to end. Just flip through it over lunch, whatever, look at each page, look at your notes. I would encourage you to go back to and do that exact same thing again in 1 week, a day, a week. And if you don't have a show right on your calendar coming up, then a month, a day, a week, and a month. The blueprint and the roadmap is in here. It takes work. It takes, there's no such thing as a free lunch, except Henry's going to give you one right now. And if you ever have questions, call them. You can reach me through here. My hope, my wish, and my dream is that today was a turning point, tipping point for all of you, and that there will come a day within the next year or two that you'll look back and go, what a difference a trade show can make in my business and my life. I've experienced it personally. It's business altering, it's life altering when you do it right. So with that, back to Henry, and I've enjoyed being with you guys today. Thank you so very much.
I just want to thank everybody again, thank Jefferson, and especially the panel for taking time out of their day. And lunches across the hall, all are welcome. Stick around if you want, and we're available. You have our phone number, and anything we do to help. Thanks again.
Just talk about doing a webinar.